everyone. Welcome to the Play Choices Podcast, a podcast you hear. I'm your host, V.
I am the co-host, Lucas.
So, we're going to spend this episode discussing Blades of Light and Shadow, Book 1, Chapters 3 through 5. This episode is not spoiler safe, so if you want to avoid spoilers for Blades of Light and Shadow, Book 1, Chapters 1 through 5, please go read those first, and we'll be here for you to come back and listen. But yeah, we are happy to be back, and I mean, the audience is not going to understand what we mean by back, but we did go like 3 weeks without recording, so
Yeah.
this definitely is, we're trying to get back into the groove of it.
It already feels like nostalgia.
I know, I'm like, wow, the good old days. But yeah, I mean, did you have any opening thoughts you want to say about Blades, or do you just want to jump right into the notes?
No, truly, we can just go ahead and jump right in. I think anything that I want to say is going to come when it's relevant in the
Okay.
conversation.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, and I think this will be a little bit of a longer episode just because these chapters, they are so plot-filled. There's so much going on, and we're trying to cover 3 chapters in one, which last time we only got through 2 chapters in the episode, so this might be a little bit longer than our usual episode, but I just felt like it was appropriate to cover 3 in 1. I didn't want to just stick to 2 anymore. I kind of want to progress through the plot faster, I guess, than we normally would for this type of book. So we're going to start with chapter 3 called A City by the Sea. As a reminder, the default MC's name is Rain, so that's how we're going to be referring to them for the duration of the podcast. The summary for this episode says, next stop, Port Parnassus, where your party of adventurers may find more than they bargained for.
There's too many P's in that summary.
There's Port Parnassus? Oh my god. Editing is going to be a fucking nightmare. I can't read. So. Okay, so the chapter opens with Rain confessing to Nia and Mal how much they miss Cade. This conversation is interrupted by Rain's satchel vibrating, which reveals that the source is the green crystal that Vash took from the vault. I remember last chapter we were like, what's going to go on with that crystal? Here we go. This is what happens. So the crystal cracks and bursts and reveals a cat with bat wings. I put a question mark in my notes for good measure. If you got the Beastmaster perk from before, you can pet it for XP, which is interesting. The group decides to keep it, and when they try naming it, the bat cat, I don't know what to call it, reveals that its name is actually Threep. Nia says it must be a Nesper, which were the advisors of the ancient elves before the war. As it turns out, Threep is actually fully cut up in all of the objectives because they could perceive everything that was going around the crystal. They just couldn't react, or nobody could see Threep. So we actually don't need to explain our entire mission, which ends up happening like 3 times in these chapters.
Oh my god,
we meet
it's so
somebody
annoying.
and we have
so
to go
annoying.
through. It's interesting because it's like, I'm really glad that in those conversations they didn't include the full dialogue of explaining. Like, a little dialogue bubble just pops up that's like, and Rain explained everything to X and X character. And I'm like, cool. Because that would have been very annoying to sit through. So Mal is not very impressed by Threep's presence, but Nia insists on keeping him and says that they can hide them while they're in town because obviously having an ancient animal like this could catch some attention, unwanted attention specifically. So the group will reach the port and they will explore the town. Mal will mention that he suspects that they're being watched, and Nia will get her coin purse stolen. You can pay 15 diamonds to go on this side quest to get her coin purse back and learn a secret about one of your party members. Did you take the scene?
I did.
I don't think I did. Unlike Nia, I was clutching my coin purse very close to me while reading these chapters.
It's so funny because it's like the little child coming up like, can you help me find my mommy and daddy? She's like, oh yes. I'm like, oh girl.
No, and Mal was like, please Nia, don't.
Yes.
Mal was the only one who was like, don't.
He's like, I used to be one.
Yeah, his whole origin story, like, that comes up in like chapter 5 or whatever. I don't know at this point, like, okay, I will go ahead and give a spoiler. and that at this point I have been up through chapter 5, I have been warming up to Nia faster than I have Mal. Um,
Really?
yeah, there's just something about her that is kind of adorable. Like, I see how it's endearing. Mal, he just kind of stayed pissing me off. His fake broody, but like, I still want to be charming thing is just like, I don't know. I feel like I've seen it with a bunch of male characters and choices, so I'm not really impressed by it. And I guess, like, to give Mal some credit, like, Nia's like innocent woman who's having like her coming of age story isn't necessarily unique in choices either, but there's just something about her dialogue that I do think is like very adorable.
Yes, especially in the later diamond scenes too.
Yeah. Like I think earlier her innocence earlier was more annoying to me than her innocence now. Now, I'm not looking at her as an ally option. And there's still a couple of scenes where she kind of pissed me off because she does just continue to be overall kind of useless
Yeah.
in
Oh my
comparison.
God. Oh my. I said, why is she in the group?
I I'm sure like she'll come to fruition like by the end of the book, but at this point in time, you know, I'm just not like I think she's adorable, but in terms of actual value add, like I'm just not really seeing it.
She's just a nanny for the pet. That's all she is right now.
Yeah, pretty much. Like she's just kind of Threep's like caretaker
Hmm.
because no one else wants to deal with him. I don't really have a problem with Threep. How do you feel about Threep? Like
I
after
kind of
its
like,
introduction?
I love him.
I
There's just
think
something about
he's so
him.
funny.
Yeah, there's truly something about the only thing that I didn't like, I automatically thought that I would hate him because like they made me pick a name and then he was like, that's not my name, fucker. And I'm like, why?
Yeah, no, that
Why?
irritated the fuck out of me. And I should have known because when you were picking a name for when you were picking a name for, you know, Threep before we knew what Threep's name was, there was like there's no default name. You just pick your own. And I was like, that's very unusual because normally in choices you get a default name for everything. And so I was like, what the fuck is
Yes.
going on here?
Yes.
It really threw me off. I was like, there's something wrong. But yeah, I didn't take this scene just because to me I'm like, okay, Nia, you got your coin purse stolen. Sorry. Like I'm not about to go chasing after this little girl trying to get it back. And like I said, I'm not super partial to Mal. There's just something, and I know there's a lot of like Mal shippers out there. So I will apologize in advance if this opinion hurts your feelings. But everything about his face just kind of pisses me off. It's
Oh
not
my
even his
God.
personality, it's just like his character design. I don't like his nose. I don't like his smile. His eyes are very disturbing to me. And it all accumulates in me not thinking like he's a very charming character. Actually, I said it has nothing to do with his personality, but I did kind of mention his like broody personality type, and I'm over it.
Yes,
So
because like truly I only find myself like really like yearning for him in these diamond scenes and it's just like, and that's another thing, like the diamond scenes, and we'll, discuss more into it, but it's like it's way more than what the initial thing is, right? Like
yeah.
I just feel like every diamond scene is like, let's do this for this, and it's like, oh yeah, sure. Then you just get like an intense moment with the characters, or like a very like, like sensitive like backstory that talks about like whatever character you choose to diamond scene with. And it's just very like, it's kind of entertaining a little bit. But yes, like him just non-diamond scene version, I'm like, Mal, shut the fuck up. Like, shut the fuck up.
I will say, like, in general, I do agree with what you say, but I still feel like even with this scene, like, the amount that Mao opens up is not enough for me to want to spend the diamonds to, like, get that information.
They all the same. Every single diamond scene I've taken with these people throughout these chapters, it's like, I'm not gonna open up. And then it's just like a little like somber music, and it's like,
Yeah.
I used to be a thief. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Like, even the baddest bitch, like, and we'll get there. But, like, it's like, okay, oh my Jesus. I'm like, you guys are all the same.
No, okay, you're absolutely right. That like every first of all, there's like almost no scenes with Nia these next couple of chapters. Like all of them are with Mal or the two new companions who are totally skipping ahead, but like Nia really doesn't get that many diamond scenes in these next three chapters. The only one that we had
At
was
all.
upcoming diamond scene, which I'll describe, when you go to the bar and you have a chance to dance with her. Other than that, like, they don't really spend too much time on Nia's character, which is really
Right.
interesting. Like, I don't know if they're like waiting to make her like more powerful or waiting for something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess it makes sense because like really these next couple of chapters are more so about introducing us to new companions than it is about
Right.
continuing character development with the ones that we have met. But
Right.
I did think it was interesting that like in the middle of the next chapter we get a scene with Mal, and there's not really a scene to like correspond with Nia. They must have had a feeling that Mal was going to be the more popular character. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, add a diamond scene with him, especially because I feel like in the diamond scenes that you have seen with Nia, like, she's generally pretty trusting and earnest. So, like, to me, she seems like an easier character to get character development out of. Whereas with Mal, they're trying to create this arc of a character who, like, isn't trusting and doesn't want to, like, show
Exactly.
his true feelings. So, like, it would take, from a character development standpoint, more diamond scenes to get him to open up to
Mm-hmm.
Rain,
Mm-hmm. I agree. I
if I
completely
had to
agree. Yeah.
hypothesize the reason
Yeah.
why. But it was interesting that, you know, he got like a dedicated diamond scene and we didn't necessarily see one for Nia. Getting back to the diamond scene, I'll describe it and then kind of analyze a little bit more. So if you do take this diamond scene, the group will catch up with the girl, and Mal will use a tattoo on his wrist to get into the building she escaped to. They will discover that the girl is being trained under the local thieves guild. Nia is pretty horrified at the number of children who are training to become thieves, but Mal reasons that this is the way that the kids can earn a living. Otherwise, they would just be like poor orphans and they wouldn't have a way to like gain money. Mal is able to get Nia's coin purse back, and we learn that he used to be a part of the guild, which is represented by the tattoo on his wrist that he had used earlier. When Rain asks about a nickname that he was called while in the guild, which is Reaper, he asks Rain to not ask any more questions about his past. That just kind of pissed me off because, like, okay, we got Nia's coin purse back, but like getting her coin purse doesn't really alter, you know, the sequence of events that happens after. It's not like you're able to purchase something that you weren't able to purchase before because of the coin purse. So really the
Right.
only benefit is learning that Mal used to be in the Thieves Guild, and I feel like it just like it sets the scene sets you up well for a future diamond scene that we'll talk about with Mal, but like
Mm-hmm.
by itself it didn't necessarily reveal that much information. Like I just kind of rolled my eyes when he was like, don't ask me personal questions about my past. Like I was like, why am I
Yeah, I
here?
was annoyed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like you got one sentence of him opening up.
And it's so weird because it's like I feel like telling us that you're in a Thieves Guild should be the biggest secret, not why you have the title that you did in the Thieves Guild. Right?
Right.
Because if it's like already a secret organization that's supposed to be quote unquote like a rumor, and you've already like told us that it is in fact real and that you were a part of it, I feel like everything else is just like dust, right? No? Like, I
Yeah,
mean,
I agree. Like I would think the fact that you're even associated with them would be an issue and not like how high up you were while you were there.
right, right.
So yeah, I really didn't understand that at all. But that's a part of the reason why like when I got to that portion of the diamond scene I was like I'm kind of glad I didn't take that. His other diamond scene that we'll talk about later is like a lot more satisfactory in terms of how much he opens up. I don't know why they chose this spot for him to be like more guarded than normal than the other diamond scene, but I do think if you're going to spend money on a diamond scene to, you know, getting more information about Mao, like I don't think this is the best one that you could pick.
Right, I agree.
Okay, so afterwards, the group will head toward the library using a map that Nia has. When they arrive at the location, there is no library, just a collection of makeshift tents. A stranger informs the group that a group of orcs raided the library for loot and took it back to their land, which is called Flotilla, which means that the shard is likely there. The team decides to head there next, but they opt to find a place to rest first. So later, while they're at an inn, Mal convinces the group to find a tavern. This is a social quest where we can learn more about our companions for 15 diamonds. Did you take this scene?
I'm gonna just beat you to the punchline. I took every damn diamond scene.
Okay. Okay.
I really did. I really did. I was like, I want to know about this gang of just literally fucking randoms that I suddenly found myself rolling with. So any opportunity that was like a social quest, I was like, sure, let's do it. Why not? But I do like this
Okay.
one a lot, actually. I love this scene.
The dialogue was very nice, and I will say that I'm enjoying the group dynamics like more than I thought I would. Again, I didn't purchase this scene because, like I said, like at this point, I just wasn't necessarily into Mal and Nia too much. But I will say, like looking back, like if I had purchased this scene, I would not have been regretful about doing so because I do think it's like a very adorable scene, and it kind of just shows how like the group dynamics, and it is interesting because obviously Mal and Nia are two very different characters. So like
Absolutely,
watching them
absolutely.
interact is very entertaining. But I'll go ahead and describe it. So the group goes to the tavern and Mal buys everyone drinks, which I will say probably the first action he's taken this entire book that I've been like, yes, my dude. Like absolutely. And Nia also gets a drink, and she has apparently never drank before. It's a very cute scene where Mal asks the group what trouble they've gotten into, which, unsurprisingly for Nia, she doesn't have a lot of stories that are to the caliber that Mal was hoping for.
Not at all.
Not at all. And Rain has the option to dance with someone, which allows you to get some romantic time with them. I only saw the scene from Mal on YouTube, and it pretty much focuses on Mal again not wanting to open up because he thinks his adventuring is the only thing that people like him for. I unfortunately was not able to find the scene with Nia, so I sadly do not know what happens. I wish I had seen it because I feel like it ultimately probably would have been more interesting than Mal just continuing to, buck us off.
Continuing to be every fan favorite male ally in every Choices book ever.
Yeah, pretty much. Who did you dance with somebody?
Yeah.
You dance with Mal?
hmm
Okay. Did you enjoy this scene? Like, okay, not necessarily like the rah rah let's all drink together part, but did you enjoy like the scene where you're dancing with Mal?
Um, I enjoyed. See, what I find enjoyment in it is suddenly like taken away because it truly is. Choices literally has some sort of like repeat on every single diamond scene. And like what I really favor is like when your character like pokes and like prods and like does this like little, because at one point like you bring him closer and like you have an option to like rest your head on Mal's shoulder, and it
Mm-hmm.
kind of gets him like twisted a little bit. He kind of like sidesteps, stumbles, he like grabs hold on you, pulls you closer, and like you guys continue to dance. And like I love those moments, but they're so recycled that when I
Mm-hmm.
saw it this time around, I was like, yeah, okay, all right. Like,
Yeah.
uh, hi guys. I think I'm finally now have the title of like intermediate you know
Right. Because you're
choices.
getting tired
Like,
now.
I'm tired. I'm so tired. I'm tired.
Before we get on with the rest of the episode, let me interrupt with some plugs. You can leave us a voice message at anchor.fm/play-choices-podcast/message. It could show up in a future episode. You can also directly support this podcast by going to anchor.fm/play-choices-podcast/support, which will allow you to support us on a monthly basis. You can also go to streamlabs.com/playchoicespodcast/tip to make a one-time tip. All of these links will also be available in the episode description. Thank you for your support, and let's get back to the episode. Yeah, it's really interesting because like I find myself having absolutely no patience for a character like Mal who just continues to be like, "Oh, I'm an adventurer. I'm big and tough, but I'm gonna push you away emotionally if you try to get close." Whereas there's, I don't know, I'll talk about it more when we get there, but there's another character that is somewhat similar, and for some reason, like I was feeling this character so much.
Me too.
We'll
Me
talk
too. Can
about it
we?
when we get
No, no,
there.
no. Can we? Like, we really have to like dive deep. It like to the point that like I was like trying not to because I felt like I was cheating on Mal. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay.
We'll get there.
So, after leaving the bar, the group will be confronted by a group of people with weapons. Matt will try to talk them down because he thinks that they're thieves, but it's actually revealed that the city's mayor is arresting them as they call them bandits. Threep will comment that he senses shadow darkness in the mayor and suspects that the mayor is a servant of the court. The mayor will move to attack the group when a mysterious figure, who we have seen before, I didn't mention it, but we bumped into this mysterious figure in the market, and he just kind of like looked at us and bucked us off, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, the same mysterious figure here jumps in to defend them using magic. The stranger, who is an elf, decapitates the mayor before telling the group to run, and then that is where the chapter ends. So I was like, cool. Knew he was going to be significant because we saw him earlier. I like that he's an elf like me, like I was like, oh, okay. We're truly just
We're
having
gonna
every
get there.
single
We go see.
species come in.
Yes, hold on to that point when you're like, I'm glad he's like an elf. Like, we're gonna
Okay.
put that under a magnifying glass
Okay.
when that scene that we both know that we want to talk about comes up. Okay, because
Yes. So we're going to continue on to chapter 4 called Escape at Sea. The chapter summary says the forces of the Shadow Court have infiltrated the city. There's only one way out, by sea. So the chapter picks up from the last, and the entire group runs. They're able to evade the guards, and Rain confronts the elf. The elf reveals himself as Tyril of House Starfury. Tyril reveals that he's hunting the Shadow Court and admits that he's trying to right some personal wrongs that they did to him, but he won't give any more details. He will cough up the coin to get the group smuggled out of the town quietly, and we see a scene where Tyril officially joins the group. I will say one thing that is very apparent is that Tyril and Mal do not like each other.
mm-mm,
Here,
mm-mm.
first couple of interactions are just I wouldn't even say first couple, like I feel like even through like the end of chapter 5 they're still a little cold to each other. So I don't know, I don't think they're all that different. I think really the only difference is just like Mal is more like goofy and Tyrell is more serious. So
Absolutely, yeah, they're two sides of the same coin.
yeah,
Literally, like,
really.
yeah.
They're pretty similar except in their demeanor. Like that's literally it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean
Mm-hmm.
obviously we're going to see the two characters probably develop like a pretty good friendship by the end of the book, but for right now it's cold.
Yeah, but
Okay.
it's ooh.
It's icy. So the next day, the group will take the boat to the Shimmering Isles, which is close to Flotilla. The group will bicker over sleeping arrangements, and we learn exactly how much Mal and Tyrell really don't like each other because it's primarily the two of them arguing. There's also an opportunity to flirt with Tyrell here, which I did.
It was just so offhanded to me. It came literally out of nowhere in the most intimate way because like the character like V said they're arguing about like where to sleep at and your character's like he can sleep with me. And I said, "Oh,
I mean,
no, I didn't
there's
I
limited
did
bunk
not."
space.
No, listen. I did not. And like my reaction when I was like, but I do have the perfect solution. He can sleep on the bench. And like Tyrell's like, I'm tall as fuck. Like my feet literally hang off that fucking bench. I felt bad because you know how tall I am. So I was like, no, I'm
Right,
so sorry.
right. No, I took the full opportunity to flirt with Tyrell. I mean, candidly, this was the first like I don't know if it's actually the first diamond scene because I do think I took one diamond scene like in chapter 2, but this was my first like diamond scene for an LI that I took, and I don't know really what it is. There's something that's a little bit more endearing to me about Tyrell's like seriousness than I find like Mal's goofiness for whatever reason. I just find it more endearing. So when I got the opportunity to flirt with him, I did. He's got some nice hair. He's got some nice, beautiful, it looks smooth. I don't know if it's smooth, but it looks smooth. He's from a noble house. There's other stuff that we learn that makes him more attractive to me in a future diamond scene, but I surely did leap on this opportunity to flirt with him. So Nia will tell the group that they need to stop bickering and get along in order to complete their quest. This will cause the group to pause and reflect on all that they've accomplished, and everyone does seem happier after doing so. So Threep opts to nap while the rest of the group goes to the top of the boat to enjoy the night. Tyrell makes a beeline for the railing and Rain joins him. This will prompt a social quest called The Wanderer where you can pay 20 diamonds to learn more about Tyrell. I already know you took it. I definitely did. Like I said, this is the first like LI
Mm,
scene that I was like into because I wanted to learn more about him. Um I'm just gonna go over like what we learned during this scene,
Mm-hmm.
because the dialogue kind of goes in circles for a little bit because it seems like Tyrell tries to like avoid being too specific, and at a certain point, he just is like, "Fuck
He,
it, I would just tell
yes,
you."
yes, which made me like, it made me admire him a little bit. I ain't even gonna lie. I ain't even gonna
Oh,
lie.
really? You find that admirable?
The fact that he actually told us the whole truth instead of like not even like partial, he literally told us like what he was doing, his goals, why, who he is, all of that in one diamond scene. And I was like, thank fucking God.
Okay, I thought for a second that you were like, I like that he skipped around the topic. I was like, what? But yeah, I do feel like in this one scene, you learn more about Tyrell than we have learned about Mal for the past like 3 chapters. So I did enjoy this
Yes.
scene. But like I said, it does kind of loop in like weird directions before Tyrell's like, fuck it, I'm gonna just tell you everything. So I'm just gonna
Mm-hmm.
list out this information and then we can kind of talk more about Tyrell's character.
Mm-hmm.
So Tyrell carries a signet ring with him, and we learn that he's the heir to House Stirfurry, which is one of the oldest and wealthiest houses in Undermount, which is, the land that he's from. We learn that Tyrell was trained to be a great student and soldier due to him being an heir, but he lacked freedom and genuine friendships as a result of that. So, therefore, he's never really been on an adventure, but he is well trained for one. Rain assumes that he must not miss his home due to his complicated childhood, but he says he actually misses his home a lot and he feels obligated to defeat the Shadow Court before he can return. When Rain comments about how serious he is, Tyrell admits that he used to be more carefree until someone betrayed him. And the other little detail that we learn is that elves do live longer than humans. Just kind of a little side note.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, overall, like, how do you feel about Tyrell's character?
I don't know if it's the fact that like we are like the same species and breed, color, everything. Because
Mm-hmm.
like truly, he just looks like me, but he took steroids, right?
Yeah.
Like, but like there's this small opening up, like him being. I says, sir, you have this bravado because you've never had a friend, sir. Like
Yeah.
you've never had a genuine relationship. All you've had is like instructors and like, war officials tell you to be better, do better because of a family's, bloodline. And it made me like sympathize with him and I regret not inviting him in my bed now. I really do. Like it was the diamond scene was all over the place, but the ambiance was there, like overlooking the night. The fish. You remember when you spot the fish, and he
Yeah.
gets all excited, and he's like, "Oh, this is my first time
Yes.
on a boat," and I'm like, "Why are you being so cute, you big bitch?" No, I really enjoyed this diamond scene, and I do hope that there are like more moments to flirt with him and more diamond scenes with him in the future because it is very Mal heavy.
Yeah, no, I definitely think he's gonna be an ally, so I don't think we have to worry about that. Um, I don't, and I have a lot of thoughts floating through my head. Okay, so my first one is I know we typically don't bring up like other books in like our discussions, but because we did like not too long ago record our next episode on foreign affairs, which I think this episode is probably going to come up before we do,
Hmm.
but I just remember like so much of our dialogue in the episode being us like talking about how oftentimes choices will create these characters who like on the outside have like a life of privilege and on the inside be like yearning for something different.
Hmm.
And it's not to say that that conflict isn't significant and real. Like, I mean, we've definitely seen stars or like public figures who, for all intents and purposes, we would think that like they would be happy to be in their position, but they actually feel pretty stifled by it. So again, definitely want to give like full credit to that character development, but it just it does strike me as a very common theme that I keep seeing in choices, just with like our very last episode being a foreign affairs one that we recorded.
True.
And now we have two companions who are virtually in the same position. They're just different species. And we haven't talked about the next companion, but the next companion is like literally in Tyrell's like exact same position, but just a different species.
Yes, like really though, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that my comment earlier, like they're like literally all the same, which is why you can
Yeah.
favor Nia because like is she a carbon copy of like a stereotype? Yes, but like we literally have three of them in the same group. So
Yes.
it's just like
It is like very it's very interesting to me that it seems like they didn't really put too much effort to like differentiate the allies too much. It seems like their primary differentiation is like their species. But
Yes.
I think that part of the reason why they do that is because obviously, as us being like an orphan who has like literally no connection to anybody, obviously in order to like try to defeat an enemy as big as the Shadow Court, we're probably going to need connections. And so it makes sense that we would need like to enlist the help of people who are like really high up in these social circles in order to help us accomplish our quests.
But isn't it weird that Nia isn't one of them? Because you got to think about it, right? You have two of them who have like noble titles, and it
Hmm.
seems like every fight, at least one person in every goddamn town we go to knows Mal because he's just Mal the Maleficent.
Yeah,
And then
because
they
he
look at
travels a lot.
Nia and they're like, "Bitch, you're not even a priestess yet."
Well, I think Nia's usefulness is going to come out not out of necessarily. Well, okay, let me rephrase this. Number one, we haven't necessarily been put in a position for Nia to be useful yet, which I think is coming up later. Like she is a priestess of the light, and like at the end of the day, like we do need someone with like light powers, or I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what you would call them, but like she literally has the powers that are the complete opposite of the Shadow Court. So like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like she's gonna end up being like the ultimate key to help us defeat the Shadow Court, and they're probably just building up to that. But also too, like we haven't necessarily been put in a position where Nia's connections are showing. Like she definitely has connections because she's like training under like the light, I forget what they call them. The light
Yeah,
temple,
right.
I
White
think.
Tower, something.
Right. I
Yeah.
forget I forget what it's called. But like I think when we get to that setting, which is kind of inevitable that we're gonna get there, that it's gonna become like a lot more apparent why she's useful. I just think
Mm-hmm.
in these first couple of chapters, she seems exceptionally useless because
Yeah.
they're not really utilizing her character to her full potential.
Right,
I
right.
definitely think it's coming, and I think she is going to end up being someone who is like pretty essential to the plot. It's just like right now we're doing a lot of like adventuring across the lands, and somehow we have managed to run into two fucking heirs.
Yeah, right? Like what in the world? We'll get there, guys.
It's so weird.
But yeah, like I'm like, what are the odds, right? Like it's like,
Yeah.
okay.
And then for my other thought about Tyrell is like I think maybe the thing that she pointed out about him is maybe why I find him more endearing is because like Mal has this like bravado because he truly has like been everywhere and done everything.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he's not, I don't think he's our strongest companion that we have,
Mm-mm.
but I
Mm-mm.
definitely think that he's very seasoned and he's given Rain the confidence to like not only is he like kind of number one. I wouldn't say he's the reason why Kate is trapped. I don't think that's fair because I think like Rain definitely pushed for them to go on an adventure. So it's kind of like Rain who started the series of events.
Yeah.
But if Rain had not run into Mal and like his two other companions who were helping him, seek out the temple, they wouldn't be on this quest in the first place. And I think that like Mal's role of the group was to get Rain to be like, hey, come on, like we can do this. Like kind of have someone who's more seasoned than Nia and Rain. Because I think if like the
Yes.
two of them were doing this on their own, like I think it would be way more messy.
It's in the dialogue a
Yeah.
lot. Like there's a lot of comments where Mal is like, "Oh, you're so lucky. I told you that like I promised you that I would help you get your brother back." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I mean, you could leave at any time."
Yeah. But I think that that's really what is Mal's like usefulness and like why his experience is so important. But I think the reason why like Tyrell appeals to me more is because like he is kind of innocent, and I do like naturally within the dialogue of Tyrell's diamond scene, I feel like you already see him opening up more than Mal because like in the very
Absolutely.
beginning, like he doesn't want to talk about like why he's going after the Shadow Court, which he still doesn't necessarily tell us why, but you do see more emotion come through. But the thing that I thought was very adorable about his character is how, he is very well trained. So like we just automatically assume like damn, he must have been fighting bitches his whole
Mm-hmm.
motherfucking life. And then like when the fish scene comes up, he's like, oh, I'm sorry, this is actually my first time on a boat. And Rain's like, huh? And he's like,
Yes,
yeah, I've
yes.
never really been on an adventure before. And Rain's like, holy
Yes.
shit. So like the fact that I thought it was adorable that he like right after he says that, he's like, listen, I may have never been on an adventure before, but I'm well trained and I'm capable. And I'm like, no, we know. Like I saw you
Yeah.
decapitate that man.
Yeah, like
Like
literally like
I'm not doubting your skills, But that's part of the reason why I think he's very endearing to me as a character, because like I like the fact that he kind of, it seemed like he almost got like kind of embarrassed about his lack of experience.
Yes, right? Yeah, so cute. He's so cute. That tall bitch. Oh my god, he's so cute.
So yeah, I mean overall, like definitely out of the three like LIs we've been introduced to so far, this is definitely the one that, I am probably going to pursue. There's just a couple of things about his character that really appeals to me. And plus, this man, he got a bag. So I already bagged myself a sugar daddy this early into the book, so I feel like I'm in a good position.
And also, this is also what I wanted to bring up. Like, theoretically, in a perfect world, you defeat the Shadow Court, whatever, whatever. Like, you get your brother back. Maybe you want to find a new home. Like, why wouldn't you feel more inclined and welcomed to learn about your history and like the species that you are and like everything?
Right.
Because he could just take you back home to the elven house, and
Yeah.
boom, you know?
I mean, I don't think it's gonna be that simple.
No, it's not.
And based off of his initial behavior when he came across us, and also like how I guess strict his house seems. I do think that it's probably gonna end up being one of those things where they're like, well, I mean, you're an elf, but like you're not really one of us, kind of thing.
Right,
You know what I
right,
mean? Like, I think
true.
that's probably more so how that introduction to that setting is going to be. But again, I'm just making predictions based off of, how uptight he seemed in the beginning.
Yes, yes. My man had a log up his ass, not a stick.
Yeah. That would be a great episode title if I could figure out how to make that PG-13. I don't know how we're going to do that yet, but we'll figure it out. Okay, so afterwards, the group will play a card game leading to some more group banter and an opportunity to improve the relationship with Mal. A storm will quickly overtake the ship, and there is an opportunity to help if you're human, which does gain some XP. If you're not human, you will just sit and like ride out the storm. Okay, so the next morning, the captain will inform everyone that they will have to wait a few days before heading towards the Isles in order to avoid the storm. In order to pass the time, Mal will suggest going to a nearby cove to see a mermaid, which is a 20 diamond scene. So I know you took this. Did
hmm
you like it?
It was, again, these diamond scenes, I'm trying to tell you, you never know what to expect. They be all over the damn place. Um, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It was just your average, like, let me tell you a little bit more about myself. It's
Mm-hmm.
like I'm begging for scraps and they always be throwing me like one piece of bread. Like, no, I want to eat. I'm hungry. Like, give me content. But no, it was very cute. It was very like it was cute. Like there's something about Mal, like the whole like, oh, let's splash each other with water and let's just like have fun and like do stuff. I can't imagine those scenes happening with Tyrell. So like these two are definitely going to be my two allies. I know I'm going to come down to one before double chapters happen. I feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Before like chapter 10, chapter 11, I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
I'm going to just favor one of them. Um But yeah, like I don't know. I don't know. It was okay. It was an okay diamond scene. I just want to know the tea about him. I want a little bit more, and he's not given what he's supposed to be given.
Before we continue with the rest of the episode, let me interrupt to share our socials. We are at Play Choices Podcast on Instagram, Play Choices Pod on Twitter, and we're also on playchoicespodcast.tumblr.com. I'll post any episode notes relating to this week's episode on Tumblr. We're also available for streaming on all major platforms. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review, as reviews help us in the platform's algorithm. If you leave us a 5-star review, we'll read it on the podcast. As always, we are a growing podcast. If you see us on your socials, we appreciate a reblog, a retweet, or a share depending on the platform you see us on. We also love it when you share our podcast with your choices-loving friends. And back to the episode.
You
Yeah,
know,
I mean, he definitely opened up like a lot more than I thought he was going to, based off of like how closed off he was in the past couple of diamond scenes. But like I said, I feel like his time to attract me over to his LI route is gone.
it's fleeting.
Like
It's
it's like,
the ship
cool.
has sailed. No pun
Sorry your mom
intended.
died. Sorry she died. Glad your sister like found a good life for herself.
Right, right.
Like him and I could be good pals, I think. I think we would be good buds. but there's nothing about his character that is like luring me over. Like so far right now, Tyril, he's my man.
Oh,
But yeah, let me go ahead and walk through the events of the diamond scene. So on the way to the cove, Mal and Rain will encounter a mermaid, and you get to kiss her. Did you kiss this mermaid?
I did kiss the mermaid.
I mean, why not?
I mean, like, truly, like, I was like, what's the worst that could happen, right?
No, I honestly, I was like, I do, like, well, not I, like, I didn't take the diamond scenes. Like I said, I couldn't care less about Mal, but I watched it on YouTube, and I was like, I want this person to kiss it, but like, sometimes like it's like the basic fairy tale of like a mermaid is like this magical creature, but there are some like really good like horror tropes out there about
Oh,
mermaids, and I was like,
yes.
I feel like if we kiss her, something bad's gonna happen. But she was a nice mermaid, she just wanted a little kiss kiss. So I was like,
Yeah,
okay,
that's
cool, go
it.
ahead, give her a little kiss. On the cove, Mal will open up about his family, admitting that he is actually from White Tower and his mother died when he was young. He took up the Thieves Guild and got promoted after stealing from a higher up, which feels very, every single Thieves Guild I've ever seen in any sort of plot. This seems very, on brand for them.
Yeah, truly.
And you will also acquire a treasure called the Shell of the Beyond. I don't know if this is going to end up being useful later, but I did not get it. So, 2 days later, the ship is sailing and is rapidly approached by another ship who is attempting to board them. It's a ship of orcs who will quickly overtake the ship. The orc captain reveals herself as Imtura. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, that's how I pronounced it, yeah.
Okay. The orc captain will reveal herself as Imtura, and just as she's about to take the ship, a monster boards the ship at the same time. Everyone prepares for a fight, and the chapter ends off on this cliffhanger. You have any ending thoughts?
No, no, it was just like the most. At the end of that chapter, I'm like, why can't we just sell? Why is everyone
Yeah.
attacking?
Yeah. Okay, so let's continue on to chapter 5 titled The Floating City. So the summary is trapped between Grobtars, which is the name of the monster from the previous chapter, and pirates. Your party fights for their life, but does hope lie in an unlikely alliance? So the chapter will pick up from the two opposing groups coming together to fight the monster who climbed aboard the ship. Nia will run below deck with Threep while the group fights, which earned the biggest eye roll for me.
No, like literally the absolute biggest eye roll. First of all, Treep, uh, can he not fly? Like, can he can he not hide himself?
I really feel like Threep is just here to be like, he's possessed by the Shadow Court.
No, like,
Like,
and if that is all this cat bat has to offer, it's gonna make me upset a little bit because
right. Like, we're going to get to it, but there's another scene where we're approached by another person who's on the side of the Shadow Court, and he was like, this person has been possessed by the Shadow Court. And I'm like, bitch, we know. You don't have to tell us. Like, I know that this person has been by the Shadow Court. I think we can just safely assume that every single time that someone tries to attack us is probably a Shadow
it's
Court related
probably the
issue.
Shadow Court. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We a ragtag team of
Right. Like they're either
throne
about to be
holders and bad bitches. So
they are about to be a ragtag companion or a Shadow Court. Like it's one of the two.
like no, and that's it. That is it. Like really though, like
And Nia, I'm like, girl, if you don't use your little light powers for
light
something,
magic. If
bitch,
you don't use your light magic,
isn't there like one part of the scene where like an arrow like flies by her head? She probably was so paralyzed now. She said, "Bitch, I just gotta go.
she said, "I have to flee," and it's so
I
crazy
can't
because
be here."
when you see, Tyro use magic, like automatically, I said, "Ooh, Nia, baby, you better get replaced." I said, automatically, you
No,
better get
literally. I
replaced.
said, "Oh, a second magic, bitch." Bye, Nia. I'm sorry.
Bye, like,
I know it's not the light that he commands, but I mean, he using it a lot more. Well, I don't want to say a lot more frequently. I feel like we really only saw him use magic in that
like
first scene,
twice.
right?
I,
When did
I
he
know
use
he
magic the
uses
second
it
time?
on the ship too. I know.
Oh, he
There's
did.
some
Okay.
scene, yeah, where he's like, he blasted, but still, like, I'm like, everyone is supposed to be fighting, and I feel like I ran against like 5 enemies on that damn ship, and I'm like, what is everyone doing? Like,
Right. No, I don't. And then, like, at the end of the fight, they're like, Tyril and Mal, like, they made some allusion to them, like, looking a little bit, like, physically, like, ruffled or something because of the fight. And I'm like, I literally, maybe we were just so enticed in our own fight that we couldn't see what was going on. That's
Right,
probably more a
right,
realistic explanation. But I was like, what did you do?
right. Truly though, truly.
Because me and Immatura, bitch, or Imtura,
Yeah, we
me and
was putting
her,
in that work, okay?
yes,
We was
bitch,
putting in that work.
yes. Okay, so there is a fight scene, as we have mentioned. I did personally level up during this scene. At what point did you level up in this chapter?
Yeah, I think I leveled up on this one too, yes.
Okay. What was your next skill that you took? Do you remember?
Oh God, I think it was brawling.
Okay, that's not a bad one. I took Woodslore. In the tutorial, it was like, take Woodslore. I was like, you got it, bitch. So, but brawling is helpful for like the next scene that comes up, though. It is. We'll
Mm-hmm.
get there. So Imtura is a pretty formidable fighter, but halfway she realizes that her ship is also being raided by the Grobtars for a spiked gauntlet. Imtura tells us to go get it back since it's a weapon, and there is a diamond scene to get it as it is a legendary weapon, which would replace our usual weapons, assuming that you have the appropriate skill to use that weapon. And it also enhances our fighting skills, and you will get more XP. I did take this scene because, like I said, anything related to leveling up or getting XP, I'm gonna purchase it.
Right,
So,
same, me too.
if you take the scene, Rain will grab the weapon and you can use it against the main Grobtar for the most amount of XP that is available for that scene. And like I did mention, this is a weapon that you can only use if you have the brawling skill, so the fact that you have it is going to be useful for using this gauntlet in the future. So after the fight, the entire group will gather, even Nia. The comment,
Mm-hmm.
the edits that I wrote. It says what I wrote down. The entire group gathers, even Nia and her useless ass, and they will celebrate the victory. The fight results in an uneasy stalemate between the crew and the pirates as they tend to their wounded from the battle. Imtura approaches Rain and expresses gratitude for getting the gauntlet back, but ultimately lets Rain keep it. Imtura claims that she's in their debt, so Rain will ask for passage to Flotilla, which Imtura is like kind of pissed off about. We don't really know why yet, but we'll get there. Imtura is able to get the group to Flotilla safely, but the guards recognize her as Princess Imtura. So as it turns out, we have another heir in our midst.
Eye roll. I just such
I
a
know.
fucking
I
heavy
said
eye
back to
roll.
back. Come on now.
I'm like, why couldn't you have like burned bridges with everyone there? Like, why do you have to be like one of the most important people
No,
amongst the
they
group?
literally like love her. Like, oh, your mom, what? Everyone loves her except for her mother.
Yeah, like really though, really, it's so funny.
So Imtura is the daughter of the clan leader, and the entire group is invited to meet the queen with her. Imtura will reluctantly agree to this meeting. So we meet the queen Ventra, and she, to say she's a
She
bit
a
of a bitch
bitch.
is an understatement.
Yeah, she is such a bitch.
She is a fucking bitch. I see why Imtura left.
No, truly though, I was like, baby, I understand. I'm sorry. I should
No,
have
I
never
was like, I'm
asked. We should
sorry
have
for
found a
judging
different
you.
way.
I get it. So Rain will ask for the shard, and Ventra says she sent it away because it was too dangerous, and the shard is currently hidden on a remote island. Ventra isn't very convinced that she should hand over its location, however, and then begins to mock her daughter for leaving her place as the heir, saying that she has failed as a pirate. Because, Mtura explained to her mom that she was saved by these people, so her mom was like, why do you even need to be saved in the first place?
Yes.
Ventra turns to the group and decides that since they did save her daughter, she will let them stay in Flotilla for one night only. After that, we gotta get the fuck out. So, afterwards, the group will head to an inn for food. Rain will ask Imtura about the royal archives where the map to the shard is supposedly stored, and Rain is able to convince Imtura to help them get it. This will prompt a social quest for 15 diamonds where Rain can explore Flotilla with Imtura and also get to know Imtura better. Well, I know you took the scene.
Mm-hmm. I said, girl, I
Um,
said, let me go ahead and figure out your backstory, bitch. Come on, let's go.
right. I did not. There was really nothing about Imtura that I found super enticing. But I will say, in taking the scene, I wouldn't have been disappointed if I had taken it. Like, I think it's a pretty decent scene for only 15
Mm-hmm.
diamonds. It's pretty long.
Yeah. And yeah,
So,
it's so long.
yeah, it's very long. The scene will start out with Imtura taking Rain across Flotilla, and there is a dance scene where Rain participates in Orcish culture. Rain and Imtura also have a heart-to-heart, very similar to Tyril's, where Imtura admits that she does miss Flotilla when she's at sea, but ultimately doesn't want the responsibility of becoming queen. So yet again, we are meeting another character where her destined fate is miserable to her, and we are obviously meant to pity her. The two will eventually make it to the
Hmm.
Royal Archives, where you'll encounter the Archives Keeper, whose name is Skullcrusher. Imtura and Skullcrusher will arm wrestle for the map, or if your character is an orc, you will arm wrestle for the map, and either way, whoever arm wrestles Skullcrusher will win and will gain access to the map. Imtura and Rain will celebrate the win, and it seems like the two have built an unlikely connection. How do you feel about Imtura after this scene?
I mean, like, this is. Oh wow, this is gonna sound really sexist. It really
Oh,
is. It
okay.
is.
We
But
record to
I
edit.
think right. I think like I don't necessarily like the illusion of this badass character pirate bitch being shattered by like, oh, I don't want to be queen, you know? Not saying
Mm,
that that takes away from her being like a badass, but it's just so weird to like that she's being put in her place by her mom. And I think there was like one dialogue option that I was like, Shawty, you gotta stand up for yourself. You gotta
yeah.
like like because like everyone wanted to be on yo she was reading everyone to freaking death. Oh my
Absolutely. Oh,
god.
Ventura was a bitch, but she was not wrong.
No, the way she was just like dismissing fucking everyone. Oh my goodness. I was like, oh. But no, like it's just truly, you know, the princess version of Tyrell's story. So it's just like, girl, I just heard this 5 seconds ago.
Yeah,
Like, I really
that
did.
is my biggest critique of this story is just like it's they just copied and pasted Tyrole's story and oops, she's a woman and an orc. And it's
Right, which
like,
is like, if she had the storyline of just being like a well-known orc who like went and gets some orc law and that's why she didn't want to go,
yeah.
that to me that would be that would be way more enticing than her being a princess.
Yeah. I agree. The only big difference between Tyrell and Imtura is the fact that Imtura like literally travels the land, whereas it seems like Tyrell has, as he said himself, has not had a ton of adventuring experience. That's really the
Right.
only significant difference. But other than that, they're pretty much the same fucking character.
Truly.
I feel like it would have been like I like the storyline that you came up with. My alternative storyline suggestion would be that Imtura actually really wants to become queen, but would rather like redefine the way that their society
Oh,
works.
yes.
Like
Yes.
because it seems like Ventra is just kind of like I mean, we don't fully know that much about Ventra, but it does seem like Ventra is like, I want this, go fucking get it, rather than doing
Yes.
like the adventuring herself. And it seems like Imtura, like what would have been a really great plot line would be for Imtura to be like, I do want to like make my mom proud, but not in the way that she envisions it for me. In the
Right.
sense that like I want to become queen and I want to maintain my position as heir, but I want to do like a good bit of adventuring, which it seems like to be like a leader, like you kind of have to be with your people, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
So that I could see how that would like strain her potential to be an heir or to be a queen more specifically. So I think that also would have been like a good like one character who's an heir and like not really sure if they want it, and then a
Hmm.
character who's like, yeah, I actually do really want to be an heir, but I would like to redefine the position of queen.
Right, right.
But yeah, I don't know. Having her story be so similar to Tyrell's, I was like, yawn. Let's move on.
Right. And I think that's and you know, that's not fair of me to like put that all on her, but it's just the fact that we met Tyrell first, so his story was like already set in stone.
Yeah.
And then for her to just literally have like a copy of it, I was like, okay, girl, you could have did better. But in actuality, like either one of them could have been like just something more than a noble. Like, because it's
Yeah.
really like, again, we talk about it all the time. Our favorite phrase when it comes to these choices, conversations is like champagne problems. Like, you're a
Yes.
princess and you're a lord. Like, come on. I get it. You don't have friends, but like, at the end of the day, like, when you become that title holder, don't you have the power to change that?
I mean, I don't think when you're an heir, no. I don't think when you're an heir you really have that much. I think it's the expectation that you're going to continue running the kingdom the way that your, parents were. But
Yeah, true.
it's just the fact that, like you said, it's a used plot, and the fact that they just tried to reposition it. Like, I just feel like, personally, it feels very lazy to me.
Yes, right?
Because, like,
Yes.
right now they literally seem like the same fucking character. And, like, I really hope that in the next couple of chapters they spend some time investing in some character development to make them seem, like, more differentiated. Like, the only thing that's different is that, like I said, she adventures more, and she seems, like, a little bit more open to, like, being jokey. Like, that's the only
Yes,
difference.
yes,
It's like
yes.
she's like the in-between between Mal and Tyril.
Right.
In fact, because Mal and her got along pretty well, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, she was the reason why Mal and Tyrell, like, kind of got along.
Right.
Because, like, she does relate to Tyrell a lot, so, like, it would make sense if she was, like, kind of buddy with Tyrell, but, like, in a conversation also kind of brought Mal into it, and then she kind of,
Mhm.
like, joked around with the both of them to get them to, like, warm up with each other. Like, I feel like
Mhm.
that would be a really cute scene. Okay, so afterwards, the team will look at the map together. We learn that the island that the shard is on isn't too far away, but the scene is interrupted by an assassin who tries to stab Rain. Imtura is able to free them of their disguise, revealing that one of her own crewmates is the assassin. So Threep reveals the obvious that this assassin has been tainted by the Shadow Court. Imtura is able to grab her, but the assassin ends her own life before they can ask her any questions. So basically, they start questioning why this assassin ended their own life, and I think it's either Tyrell or Threep, maybe both of them, say that if you're an agent of the Shadow Court and you get captured, you're more useful to the Shadow Court dead than alive, because obviously if you're alive, you can be tortured to reveal answers. So it seems
Right.
like it may be expected of people who are under the shadows and influence to, end their own life rather than potentially reveal any secrets. Imtura takes this as, like, a personal affront because essentially she interprets this move as the Shadow Court trying to prevent Imtura to getting to the island to get the shard. One thing that we do learn about Intura's character is that you can manipulate her to do anything by basically asserting that she can't do it.
Yes, I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying
Reverse
to tell
psychology works
you.
so strong on this bitch. Like, maybe her mom is right that she's not ready to be queen because she's so easily manipulated.
Mhm.
But Imtura takes this as a personal affront because she hates when people tell her what she can and can't do, and she decides to join the team just purely out of spite, like, just
No,
truly
like
out of spite
literally out of spite. Yes.
to get the shard back. And we get, like, a shortcut scene basically showing, like, hey, Imtura is a part of your clan or group or whatever they're called, a band of adventurers, I think.
Mhm.
And then the chapter ends. So I don't know. Do you have any, like, final thoughts before we do rapid fire and bingo?
No, first of all, I just knew that both of these people would join the group because they're in
Of
the
course, of
poster. They're in the
course.
poster. Like they're
Yeah,
literally in the poster, the starting up poster. So
yeah.
like I was like looking at it and I was like, "Oh." And then like when the character popped up, I was like, "Oh, hey you. Okay. All right. Let's see where you fit into the story." Oh, you're just the
Yeah,
male version of her story. Okay, got you. All right, next.
yeah.
Like
Okay, so let's go ahead and do again rapid fire. Mal.
he annoying. He's my annoying. I don't know why I can't let him go. He annoying though.
Yeah, again, for me, annoying. Maybe a good friend in the future, but we got to get past this, like, broody, like, machismo. Like, I'm over it.
Yeah, like
Nia.
she needs to be useful. She's useless right
Yeah,
now. That's it.
I
That's all I
have
got for her.
high hopes for her. I really do have high hopes for her character. I just hope we get to it sooner than later. Like, I don't want to be at chapter 16 and she, like, surprises us. Like, I needed to be somewhere, like, before chapter 10.
Mm-hmm.
Tyril,
Oh, love him.
my sugar daddy.
I love literally
My
sugar
sugar
daddy.
daddy with the heart of gold.
Yeah, like truly. Like, oh, I just love it when he like stifles like a smile and I'm like, oh, I'm getting to you, baby.
I
I'm getting
know.
to
I love those
you.
characters. Okay, and Tura?
Oh my God, that's just my bitch though. Honestly, like as much as like her storyline is like recycled, that's just my bitch. Like I just feel like she gonna be the one that's like, nah, we about to just kill everybody in here, and I'm gonna be like, I'm with her. Like I'm really with
Yeah.
her.
Before we continue with the rest of the episode, I do want to remind everyone that if you have any questions or comments that you would like to be included in a future episode, please email us at playchoicespodcast@gmail.com. Questions can be related to books we've recorded episodes on, books that we haven't read yet, or even questions you'd like to ask us. Please specify if you want a shout out, otherwise all emails will be anonymous. Alternatively, you can go to our Ask box on playchoicespodcast.tumblr.com and submit a question. Just specify that is for the podcast and we'll be sure to include it. And back to our episode. No, I do like her personality. I just hope, like I said earlier, that they invest some more character development to help differentiate her and Tyril, because otherwise they're kind of the same character right now. And
Really, yeah.
I want to like her, but it's I will say this: if they had introduced Imtura before Tyrell, I would just feel the same way about Tyrell.
Absolutely,
I purely am
absolutely.
biased towards Tyrell because they introduced him first. It's
And that's
recency bias.
exactly,
That's it.
exactly. Right.
Well, maybe
That's
not recency, like whatever first impression bias, whatever the fuck you call that. Like,
yes, yes, yes. I completely 100% agree. And that's what that comment that would be edited out earlier, that's what that was about. Because I was like, oh,
yeah,
well, I mean, but it's truly because Tyrell was introduced first.
yeah, absolutely. And lastly, Threep.
Just comic relief and
Mm-hmm.
two things, comic relief and like there's a shadow person 5 seconds after we already know. Like,
Yes.
like,
Yes. That I can't. There's nothing more I would add. I couldn't have said it better myself.
no, that's it, right? That's it. When he made that joke about like, hey guys, like I'm trying to take a cat nap, I'm like, will you shut up and go to sleep?
Oh my god, that little piece of dialogue where he was like, I really shouldn't have eaten that piece of salmon. And
And then we're
Tyrell
like,
was
you're
like,
eating
you're
it right
eating it
now.
right now. And he's like, I know,
I
but
know,
I
I
regret it.
regret it. Like really, like there's something about that cat bat's personality that I'm like, I fucks with you hardcore for real.
Yeah. I will say overall, just to kind of end my thoughts before we head on to bingo, is that like I do feel like I'm warming up to this book more than I was in the initial episode.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's quite reached like top 5 or top 10 status for me yet, but I do think that after adding like all these people and seeing them interact with each other more, that I am enjoying the group dynamic. I am looking forward to seeing how they interact with each other further,
Yes, me
because really
too.
like there wasn't too many scenes for Imtur to like really get to interact with the group. We kind of got more one-on-one time with her,
Right.
more so than, group time, which I think is interesting. Can I just point out one more thing? I thought it was interesting that Mal was like the most fearful of going to Flotilla and then ended up having the quickest bond with Imtura out of everyone.
Yes, yes. And I do think it's weird that like the least experience, which is your character, like everyone still relies on like you making the final decision.
Yeah. So I mean truly like Rain's the only reason why they decided to join, because like
Yeah.
Rain is the first one to look at Tyrell and be like, who the fuck are you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why would you do that? And Rain is the one who kind of persuades Imtura to join their group, because
Yeah.
otherwise, like, if it weren't for Rain going over there and getting the gauntlet and like helping save both of their ships, like I don't know how that scene turns
Exactly.
out if you don't pay for the diamonds for the gauntlet. So I don't. Maybe this is different if you're doing like a diamondless playthrough. But I mean, based off of popularity, I would assume the majority of people probably took that scene
Yeah,
more than
yeah.
more than less. But like, really, Rain is kind of the glue that holds the group together right now,
Yes, yes. I agree. I completely
and
agree.
plus is the one who has like the most passion for this. Probably, if I had to say, if there was one character who had more passion, it may be Tyrell or Nia, just because they actually have some skin in the game personally for defeating the Shadow Court. Everyone else is just kind of like along for the ride because they're like pissed off about the Shadow Court,
Yeah, yeah,
but not
really.
for personal reasons, just like for their pride, pretty
Right,
much.
absolutely.
But yeah, I think right now, like, Rain is just kind of like the social glue. Like, may not be the strongest character, but you can definitely see how Rain is very charismatic, which I think honestly came through from the first chapter.
Mm-hmm.
I will say though, like, I don't think that Blades is in like my top 10 choices book quite yet, but I do think the writers are doing a really good job at world building.
Yes, they
Because
are. Yeah.
in hindsight, there are things that are making sense from previous chapters that didn't quite. I say previous chapters like we read it only through chapter
Right.
2, but there are things that are like making sense, and like I'm better able to piece to like. It's not necessarily that I'm better able to piece together like themes and stuff, because I feel like, not to pat myself in the back or anything here, but I feel like I could do that pretty well. But I feel like the writers are being more intentional and explicit about it than I have seen in like other choices books. Like, again, and this is a very low bar to set so I apologize for my comparison. But I did just finish reading the Nanny Affair book 2. So that is why it's coming to mind. It's a recency bias thing, but like it does seem like it's more explicit and more intentional. And that is not to slight the Nanny Affair book 2 writers. I'm sure they were also intentional, but the Blades and the Nanny Affair 2 are just two very different writing styles. So like one is going to inherently seem a little bit more sophisticated than the other. The Nanny Affair 2 is written very specifically for very specific goals. So, I can just see the world building and like plot building like a little bit more clearly in Blades, which I do respect in the writing, I can say. I won't rag on the book anymore. It's essentially my summary. Well, for now. Okay, let's move on to bingo. So again, we crossed out quite a bit of these from just the first
Yes.
chapter alone. So for those of you who are not familiar with bingo, not for every book, but for some of our books, we do put together a bingo, which is just basically like common tropes that we will see in a specific genre or specific plot line. And we just try to, to reach bingo. And we have already reached bingo on the very first episode just because there's a lot of fantasy tropes that are hit on in this book, which is kind of to be expected with the fantasy genre, to be honest. But let's just see how many more bingos we can get. I'm just counting one right now. So let's see if we can get some more bingos. So the first unmarked box says the fate of the world lies with the chosen one. I feel like we should be able to mark this box, but I don't think that the narration has really gotten this intense yet. Like I feel like the answer is inevitably
Yes.
going to be yes, but the narration hasn't been like, oh, we're gonna change the fate of the world. Like it's kind of been hinted at because Rain tried to explain to Skullcrusher that by getting the shard back they could save a lot of lives, and then
Yes. Yes.
told Ventra that if if the Shadow Court took down like the entire Elven colony, then like what makes you think they're not going to try to take your clan down?
Yes. Yes.
So it's kind of being hinted at. I don't think it would be wrong of us to mark it, but it's not very intense yet. So I'll leave it up to you. Do you want to mark it?
I think we should mark it because if not us, then who, right? Like who
Right.
else is aware of the situation? Who else knows what's going on? Like it seems like, I mean, granted, like Tyrell knew what was going on, yes, but that was just by sheer luck and like who he is as a person because no one else knows that the Shadow Court is like taking over people and has this malicious intent on like finding the shards in order to receive their full power, but us.
Okay. I'll put in one caveat that makes me not want to mark it.
Okay.
Even though we both know that Rain is the chosen one. We both know it.
Mm-hmm.
Or we're predicting it. I guess potentially it could be Nia, because I do feel like with her being the priestess of light, I
Yes.
do think we're ultimately going to need her power to defeat the Shadow Court, because like how else do you defeat Shadow other than with light? But it's like we don't necessarily have the explicit like, oh, you are the chosen one for any of the characters. So that's the only thing that's
Right.
kind of hesitating me. Like we know it's coming up, but it hasn't been stated by someone being like, your actual like secret ancestry like makes you the chosen one in this
Yeah, see, let's
class.
yes, yeah. Let's put it on pause. Let's put it on pause.
Okay, we'll
Let's
put it
see
on
what
pause
more
for now.
backstory we get, you know. Because
Okay,
we
so
were an orphan, right?
yes, so like we don't know
And
what
it's
her background
just
is.
right, it's too cliche for an orphan to be settling on an Avenger and then they end up being
Yes.
yeah, you're right. We need a little bit
Yeah.
more backstory, a little bit more dialogue.
Okay. The next box is the protagonist has a mentor. I don't know if we're gonna have one explicit mentor. It kind of just feels like we have our ragtag group of people who are providing us with guidance.
Yes.
Again, I feel like this is another one that I want to hold off just to see if there is one true specific mentor that comes up. But for right now, I'm kind of just getting the feeling that it's like gonna be a collection of them.
Yes, I completely agree.
Okay. The next one is dragons. I don't think we've seen anything really close to a dragon in this book.
No, not at all.
The closest we have is Threep, just because his little wings, but those are more
His
bat-like.
his fucking bat wings.
His fucking bat wings. Okay. This next one kind of plays on what we were talking with earlier, which is that a key character has a hidden ancestry or origin story. Again, we have not. Well,
Mm-mm.
I don't know. Do you consider like the reveal of Tyril and Imtura being heirs, like their quote unquote hidden origin story? Like, I don't know. It feels like we kind of found it a little bit too easily. It feels like it was too easy.
Right, and that's exactly what I was about to. My counterpart was about to be like. I mean, eventually, I feel like how hard would it have been to find out who they really were? You know,
Yeah.
like I just feel like if just because we didn't know who they were doesn't mean that like other people on the streets wouldn't have known that who they
Yeah.
were. Um, Given the fact that like they do come from like their title is their specific race, and we were raised by humans. So I feel like if we came across
Mhm.
another elf, they would have known who Tyrell was, and if we
Yeah.
came across another orc, they would have known that she was the princess.
Yep.
So yeah, just hold off on that just a little bit, just a little bit.
Okay. A band of adventurers who don't get along team up and discover that they like each other. Again, I kind of need for Mal and Tyrell to get along in
Mm-hmm.
order for this to happen. It's gonna happen. We know this, but I just want to hold off on this one a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. MC is the one true heir identified by a mark or an artifact. I feel like it's coming, but we just
Yeah,
gotta wait.
right. We gotta wait.
Someone sacrifices their life to save another but is resurrected. This has not happened yet. The villain's lair is big and dark, only enterable by a secret passage. The closest we've gotten to this is like sneaking into Flotilla, but I feel like Venture's gonna end up being an ally, so I don't want to call her a villain quite yet.
Right, right.
Okay. And then there is a physically large female warrior. I mean, we can mark that
I mean,
so quickly.
absolutely.
Because if you
Absolutely.
saw Imtura's illustration and that little campfire scene, that's a big bitch.
She a big bitch, bruh.
That's
She
a
a big
big
bitch.
bitch.
She give Tyrell a run for his money.
Yes, and a physically strong. She took down Skullcrusher in that arm wrestling competition so
Yes.
motherfucking fast.
When there was one scene and like when you're fighting against all those like fish gobbler things or whatever, where
Mm-hmm.
she was like, "You call that an attack?" And she threw her fucking axe, and I was like, "Okay, Huntress, like
Yeah.
okay."
DBD reference for those of you who don't know. DBD reference. Okay.
But truly, like I'm like, "Oh, she big, bruh. She big."
Yeah, a big motherfucking bitch. But okay, I guess that's the end of our bingo. We've only marked one. Again, I do think there is this is probably the highest potential we've ever had to mark every single
Mhm.
box on a bingo.
Mhm.
We just have to wait for, the plot to build, which is fine. We're only in chapter 5. We got 11 more chapters to go. It's going to
Right.
be fine. But okay, well thank you for chatting with me. I will say I think this was a nice little chat. I enjoyed
I
it.
I love that. Yeah,
I
truly.
feel like we were able to like dive into, the good, the bad, the ugly of Blades. And I feel like I said, I think the writing and the character building is so good that it kind of just makes a conversation like this very effortless. So, I'll give a little clap clap, a little cheers to the writers. I mean, so far I am enjoying the book. I don't know if it's top 10 for me quite yet, but it's good, it's good. It's good. It was very funny. It's just ironic because I just have to point out Lucas and I were having an earlier conversation before we
Mhm.
recorded where I was like, I'm not really impressed with the book. And it's not necessarily that the book has impressed me. I think it's just good writing. Like, and I feel
Yeah.
like, can I say this candidly? Sometimes I don't really appreciate a book and then I'll sit down to discuss it and I'm like, well, there actually is like more depth in here than I thought. Like kind of happened with the Nanny Affair too. Not the book. I mean, two isn't TOO, but it happened with the Nanny Affair where I don't think I realized how much I appreciated the book until after I discussed it because even though like we will rag on the Nanny Affair all day every day because it is kind of ridiculous, like it's also very like enjoyable too.
Yes.
So sometimes just sitting down and having like a podcast talk about it, I'm like, wow, I do like these books more than I thought I did.
I agree. I completely agree.
Just a little bit of an aside for the readers to understand how our opinions develop.
Yes. Yes.
But okay. I mean, yeah, bitch, that's it. I guess to, do our little plugs, if you want to follow us on social media, we are Play Choices Pod on Twitter and Play Choices Podcast on Tumblr and Instagram. That Red Bull really kicking in really hard right now. It's like my mind's going at like 1,000 miles an hour. My mouth cannot keep up with it. I have a new streaming schedule. So if you didn't know, but I do stream is twitch.tv/playchoicespodcast. I did recently switch up the streaming schedule. It is on Mondays, we're actually reading Wolf Bride. So as of the day of we're recording this, I have read chapter one. I can't wait to discuss it with you, Lucas, because wow, wow, wow. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
And we're reading Chasing You from Romance Club. Tuesdays continues to be a Romance Club themed streaming day. For both of those days, Mondays and Tuesdays, we are streaming at 4 p.m. PT, 7 p.m. ET. Thank you to our secret service that includes everyone who has been contributing money from Anchor, our people who have donated tips, our people who have subscribed to me on Twitch. I'm just going to try to recall them from memory. Thank you, Jennifer, for continuing to give us your $9.99 monthly donation. And then also to our Twitch subscribers. I say our, you're not involved in this. My Twitch subscribers. Eric, thank you so much. Fishty, thank you so much. I think KT is also a subscriber. Thank you so much. I should have said this at the top of the episode, but I've just kind of gotten an influx of messages of people who are telling me they're going through a hard time and our podcast has been like helping them through it, which if you're going through a hard time, I apologize. And if this podcast is bringing a little bit of light into your life for the hour and a half, I'm so glad that it's doing that for you. It's really like it really does help to like hear that you guys are, not only appreciating this from an entertainment value, which is valuable to me, but also that to know that our like silliness and shit is like helping y'all to just like distract yourself from the bullshit of life. Like it should be known to me because like I also use entertainment to like distract myself when I'm stressed. But sometimes I just forget that people listen to the podcast like that. So it's so nice for everybody to come in my DMs and messages to let me know. I take these messages to heart. And whether or not you're having a good or a bad day, which I really hope you're having a good day, I pray for you. But it just means a lot when y'all express how entertained you are by the podcast. So thank you for just continuing to listen to our dumbasses discuss these interactive novels on a weekly basis. And I'm gonna get off my soapbox because that's all I have to say about the pot. I'm shaking. This Red Bull is I I gotta stop. I literally have to force myself from talking. I gotta pull the plug on my mic. Thank you all so much for listening to us. Lucas, is there anything you want to say?
That's it, guys. XOXO Play Choices Podcast.
XOXO, aka the Bitchy Book Club. Love you. Bye.
Bye.